Oh my God. Now I know what my girlfriend feels like. Oh. Right.
Remind me to tell you something
Oh my
afterward off
goodness.
air.
Okay. I love that was right in there. All right, so I'm checking it out on YouTube and it looks like it's fine, so that's good. I see what you mean, like my out of focus, but I don't know why. Weird. Okay. Well, we will deal with that some other time. Anyway, welcome
So
to
we're live
devMode.
now? Oh, sorry.
Welcome to Dev, a podcast dedicated to tools, techniques, and technologies used in modern web development. It's been so long I can't even get the intro right.
I'm doing good. How are you?
All right. Yeah, we feels like we haven't done it. I talked to you earlier, and you told me that you were cranky.
I said moderately cranky.
Moderately. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I am too. So we should have a, you know.
Oh, good.
This will be like two people going on a date. Actually wants to go there, and it should be good for some animosity and some tension. You know.
Now that I feel like I need to be cranky about something.
All right. So what? With I noticed that the Expression Engine conference was just kind of down, and it had been going on for I think the last 2 days. I think it's yesterday and today, something like that. And I was watching it, and they were demoing Expression Engine Pro, and I was interested in it because I was interested to see what kind of features they were going to have in there. Did you check any of this out? Are you aware of any of this?
I haven't. I would have to Google it right now.
So you're not, the EE Insider was not on scene doing reporting and interviews?
No. And for those that don't know what Andrew's talking about, site with like EE tutorials. So what is it? What is Expression Engine Pro? Nothing.
Yeah, I don't think they've really updated their website yet. What it mostly, I mean, it's a few things. It includes low variables, and it a couple of other cookie-related functions, but it looked like the major thing that they were adding to it. And Caroline probably was there too. I believe the conference. So we got her in the chat. How you doing, Caroline? It looks like the major thing that they added to Expression Engine Pro is content editing. So essentially, you load the page, and if you toggle on the edit mode, a little icon appears next to the various things that are on the page, like stuff that you can edit, and you click edit, and it comes up, and then you can edit the content, and you can save it. And it seems like that was the main. Go ahead.
Oh, so it's like Mojo Motor.
It literally motor, like in some ways. So but here's the interesting. Like I was watching it, and there have been any number of implemented something like this. As you mentioned, Mojo Motor, something from Ellis Lab years ago, which was kind of very similar to this, but that was more lightweight, right? It wasn't engine with the ability to edit it on the front end. It was more, just a very lightweight kind of type of thing. And again, I've seen a number of people that have tried to implement this over the years. The interesting thing about the way they did it is it's not inline editing. You click on it and you get to edit it like you would in Chrome, for instance. Chrome has a mode that some people don't know about. You can actually switch it to a design mode where you can just edit stuff that's on the page, and you can just edit the CSS, and you can just do it all live, and it's kind of cool.
Is it with an free, like just part of Chrome?
Oh, that's yeah.
I actually didn't know that's a pro tip.
Yeah. Let me.
Let's see.
So anyway, you got me distracted, Ryan. Like now I'm looking up.
It's all good. Go ahead.
I was gonna tell you how to do it. All right, so you do it. I believe it's just a setting, and you can just like turn it on, and you can just start doing it. It's actually really neat the way that it works, and we should. I almost feel bad. I feel like we've stolen a Tyler's tip from him because it's totally something that he would love and would love to demo. But in any event,
it's not first, you're last.
Yeah. In any event, there are lots of ways. There are lots of different takes on this in terms of editing stuff on the front end. The way they did it is with windows, right? So every time you go to edit something, it basically opens up a window. Not a actual native window, but like a floating window with a drag bar that you can drag that has the full GUI that you would see in the back end for editing that particular field on the front end. These things, and it starts to actually look like the Mac OS desktop in a way because you can have all these little windows open, implemented essentially a little window in there. Yeah. And then they also added a dock. So there's a thing that they're calling a dock, which is it kind of lets you larger features of the back end. And in that dock, and forgive me if I'm getting any of this wrong because I'm just kind of paraphrasing it. These little things called prolets, which is something that extensions can make full functionality available kind of in, like imagine a structure editor or an entry list or something like that. You can open that up in a window on the front end. And there are other kind of major things that are in the. And I'm looking at this, Ryan, and yeah, I mean, one of the things that occurred to me is like, hey, it's Mojo Motor, but more than that, right? But the thing that was most strange to me, or I found most interesting, is really what this is it's reverse live preview. I mean, that's really what it is, right? So the web page is the live preview. It's the live page.
Right.
And instead of bringing the live preview into the CP where you've got all the controls, they're taking the controls and they're putting them on top of the live preview on the front end.
I assume the argument, people that are managing the site want their first experience to be the visual, and their experience to be the editing experience. I assume that's the argument.
I guess that's the argument, but again, it looks to me very much like a live preview. And I say that from the perspective that the page is the preview, and then controls from the back end into the front end, and then they're bringing more and more, and then at some point they're going to reach a tip that brought all of the back end into the front end. Okay, well, what's the difference between that and logging into the CP other than you have a different GUI for doing it, you know?
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's interesting. I don't think that's. I think we've talked about this before. Maybe we haven't talked about it before, but I think that the paradigm of how content management systems work right now, like, hasn't really been innovated on by really anyone, in terms of that there's this one thing that's just basically a big set of forms.
Yeah.
This other thing that's like stuff from those forms and wrapped in stylized components page. And we've always had these two separate things. Really, other than I guess Squarespace would be like the thing, like those where everything is like drag and drop. I guess.
Yeah.
But that's never really come to the level of like CMS that you projects that you do with like a craft or other Drupal, anything like that. So it's interesting. It kind of feels like, an experiment.
Yeah, and you mentioned that some of these drag and drop editors have not come to the full CMS experience. I don't think they need to. You know what I mean? I think a lot of the Wix and that type of thing are filling a different need and probably filling it better than a lot of CMS systems would. I don't know, and I've done this too when I've is that you start with an idea like, well, if I could just click on this field in the front end, right? And then you're like, well, really want to be able to support editing any kind of field on the front end. So then we're going to need to do this. And then we're going to need to windowing system. And then, you know what? It's cool that we can edit all these fields front end. But then what if I want to look at the in there? Well, we need to come up with some way to get at that. And then you end place where you probably didn't start there. Like you probably didn't plan.
You're just flipping the whole thing around again. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're essentially flipping it all the way around. Is exactly what you're doing. Saying that the podcast is glitchy. Yeah. Sorry about that, Jaylee. I hope it's not. I don't. If it's, we had an internet outage the other day. I don't know. Maybe there's something wrong with it. Are you unable to hear well? But continue while he answers in chat. It's just, you know, place where you didn't plan to get there. I think you just kind of, it's like going down not a slippery slope, but going down, take a little step, and you keep going, and yeah, like you said, you end up just flipping it on its head, where it's like, I don't know. I mean, I get. So Caroline was saying that the main audience is, please make my website easier to use, more extensible. Yeah, I get it, but it's kind of, I don't know. I mean, I think they really are getting to the point where they're taking so much from the CP and this windowing system on the front end that all they really redesigned live preview, in that instead of it being on the left, live preview somewhere else, they've got preview on the bottom and windows all over it, you know, is really what it kind of like to me.
Yeah, I need, they don't have anything released yet. But if they do, then I'd like to check it out and just see. It's always what people are doing, because there's all sorts of out there that may just be a fragment of a good idea, but maybe be part of something. Isn't, you know, what we would want. Have any interest in working in that templating system?
Right. Well, forget about that. Don't worry about that. They've said that they plan to move to Twig, so that's on the agenda. That at some point they're going to be moving to Twig. Apparently, I was just more interested in it, and I'm not trying to take shots at EE or anything. I just think it was interesting from a design perspective that it really feels to me like they started with an interesting intention, which is to make it easier for people to edit stuff on the front end. And, you know, again, lots of people have tried this over the years. I don't know.
So what you're saying,
mean, it feels
like a, and and you have to be careful, because you can become a nihilist if you do this too much. Is you're kind of looking out into the future and saying, this series decision I've made for this, going down this path, a series of decisions that have to happen as I work. I anticipate that I might be in a spot that isn't where I want to be. Right? You're kind of like, it's like a architecture, trying to predict where your architecture decisions are going to have you end up.
And sometimes it can take a third-party person to say, "Hey, you actually did here," you know, because and I there, you know, I'm not dunking on them. I have been there where I've done something. I'm like, look at this cool thing that I made, and like, oh, you just did this, and I'm like, now that you put it that way, that's exactly what I did. Yes, you're right.
Right.
All right.
Yeah,
we're gonna. Go ahead.
I don't know what prolets are. I saw your comment here in the show notes. What did sorry? Is it applets?
So, okay, so they already had gotten to the point where they had complex editable field types in the so you can click on them, they open up, and then they were like, well, okay, but that only covers a small use case. What if they need to various entries, or what if they need to access a structure plugin or some kind of more extensive capabilities that a third-party plugin has added to it? And that's what these little prolets are. Is they're little icons in the dock, and you click on them, and in a window in the front end, it opens up whatever that plugin's interface is, layered on top of what I'm just going to call the preview, okay? Because that's what it is. Instead of it appearing in the CP somewhere, it appears, you know, on in the preview on the front end.
Interesting. All right. Well, I mean, I look forward to. the video here, so I'm going to watch that.
Yeah.
Not right now.
And
but I want to.
and Caroline is saying, I mean, Andrew, I think you're used to working with advanced tools like Craft CMS. I think EE likes to walk the line of not being an advanced tool. And I get that. I understand. My real point in this, Caroline, is really just, I mean, they re-implemented live preview in a different way, in a different interface. And that's really what it is. And it seems like if they had kept it simple, then I think it would make more sense to me. If it had been, you can just do these little lightweight edits on the front end and that's it. I'd be like, okay, that I get it. But if they're taking the whole kitchen sink and they're pulling it out of where it was in the CP and pulling it into this windowing system that they're putting on the front end, to me, all is inverting live preview, and you're taking a bunch to be somewhere else and you're bringing it out onto the front end.
But you could also say that they're innovating the CMS experience too. They're shot at that. Yeah. I
don't know. I mean, it's just based on the video that I saw. I have not, but I watched them demoing it, and it looked pretty complicated because you're able to open up of windows and they're all over the screen, kind of like a Finder, you know what I mean? And then you can open up these other, and they're not, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they'll end up.
Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about something else that you probably haven't worked in a while. And I see it here. I'm going to steal your.
Yeah. So Jquery is interesting. A lot of you do, if you're well invested in the framework world, you sort of think of Jquery as this that was in the past, you know, that we haven't done anything with for a long time. The interesting thing about Jquery is it just started in usage in mid 2020. It literally started declining usage, which is pretty incredible.
That's well, so I wonder how they did to Mike Sheroff. I wonder how they measured that on the, like, one of those browser tools that kind of sniffs like tech and stuff. Because I wonder if it's the usage of it or if it's the deployment of it. So our old sites are now being revamped without. You know what I mean? Like, that's different than actively developing in it now.
All right, so let me see. We got Ryan. All right, so I'm going to try to do something, Ryan, and I'm going to have to cut this out of the live broadcast. I'm going to see if I can figure out. We have Ben Croker, who is in the audience here. And I'm going to see if I can figure out how to add him. How can I add him to the actual thing here? So there's a chat. Ben, if you're there, can you say something in the chat here real quick?
Ben said my audio was a little low.
Yeah.
Chris.
I don't know how to do it. This is so sad. I had assumed that it was just something that I assumed that there's the audience. Recording overview. No, that's
one in audience, Ben.
Oh, there he is. He had to do something, and we hit admit.
Hi.
Hey,
oh, chaps.
Ben Croker. Ben,
I'm good. Oh, I didn't realize the video would be on. I thought this would be like calling into a radio show. I would have brushed my hair or something.
It's calling.
Or is that a sensitive topic on this show?
Oh wow! Did you see that, Ryan? Coming out with it. Coming out with the smoke.
Ben, is my audio better?
A little better, yeah.
Andrew doesn't ever give me feedback loudest, so I think that's part of the problem.
That's never a problem, Ryan. Like that's something off at will. Okay. So Ben, the reason we want to have you on is twofold. So first of all, you're for testing our Riverside, because we wanted to see, in theory, what we can do is we can have people that are in chat and watching kind of the way you were, and then we can promote, or they can ask to be invited on stage, and then we can.
Yeah, it worked really well, actually, once I figured out that I had to run back to my computer. because I wasn't quite prepared for the question. I thought you were
Oh.
going to talk about jQuery for a while.
So what do you have to
Yeah,
do?
what happened?
It was pretty seamless. I just had to request live call access or something like that, and then enter a name and a question, and
Right.
off we went.
Well, when I
Cool.
think of jQuery, I think of Croker, so I wanted to have him on.
Okay.
So how do you feel, Ben? It was a lame.
Better jQuery than Expression Engine.
Here we go. Here we go. Oh my God. No. All right. So jQuery, do you realize that it just started declining in usage in 2020? I would have thought it was like 5 years ago.
Doesn't surprise me. I mean, the number of libraries. I mean, everyone who's using Craft is using jQuery, right? Indirectly through the
In the
control
CPU,
panel.
though, that wouldn't be measured by any of these tools that are measured.
Well, I don't know how they measure. They're measuring downloads, or what are they measuring then?
So it's sites like Built With that they will crawl sites and they will look at the technologies that are being used, and that's where these type of graphs are coming. I believe. Let me double check that.
Okay, so in theory, they wouldn't see the control panel. They might see the login page, but
The point I was making is the decline is probably older sites being versus
yeah.
that people have suddenly stopped working with it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's
Well, and also, no, I think a big part of it is not just the okay, and you didn't even say this, so I don't know why this angle, but I think part of it is just that the browser has subsumed a lot of the functionality that used to be in jQuery. You know, where you can do get, all that kind of good stuff. That's been in the platform. That's why I'm shocked that jQuery peaking at 2020, because this functionality has been in the platform for some time. Like I don't get it. Really don't get it.
I mean, I don't know. For a lot of developers who've been around a long time, I think jQuery is a very comfortable place to work, and dropping it completely from old sites, maybe it makes sense when you're starting a new project. But
Yeah.
you know, if you're working on legacy sites, and there are tons and tons of legacy sites around,
Right.
you're still in jQuery land, which makes it then maybe more difficult to, you know, invest your time in a brand new framework.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me, but
It surprised me, man.
it makes sense that it would.
It surprised me so much because I can't even. I guess it's just how long legacy sites stick around. Because if you were making a new site today, there would be no to use jQuery, or very little reason, because most you need is built into the platform and has been for like what, 6 years now. I don't even know when they actually added that stuff.
There's still a significant number of libraries around that require, they're built on jQuery. So jQuery would be
That's
a
a good point.
dependency.
is for Bootstrap? And some of
I'm
it's
sure it
you.
is. I'm sure it is. And that is a really good point. So anyone who's using these off-the-shelf components or Bootstrap and the that comes with it, that makes sense. That's probably where a lot of it came from. Yeah, it looks like, I think they're saying it's 2012 that was introduced into the platform. Yeah, wow. Things like get element by ID and that type of thing were added to the platform as early as 2012. That's a long time ago, man. Wow.
Still makes it easier to a bunch of that functionality into like so there's still some benefit. That's the reason that people use it.
For sure.
The same reason that you would use, Break as an example, right? Is that it takes a lot of that functionality and combines it into a simpler developer interface.
I was going to say, Ben is working on, I think I might be, pre-announcing this for him. He probably doesn't want me to, but Ben is working on jQuery X, which is something that it allows you to implement jQuery selectors via HTML attributes, right, Ben?
Yeah, you can drop the jQuery, but besides that, you're accurate. Yeah, so it's maybe the next generation of Sprig, I think, is what you're getting at.
Yeah, so that's one of the other reason we wanted to I was curious to talk to you. Obviously, you're going to be talking about yourself, but I was just curious. You have been working on this thing called Sprig for a while, and you decided recently to break it out into. So one is going to be the Sprig plugin. This is going to be Sprig Core, which is functionality that is implemented. So why are you doing this?
So actually, Michael Rogg put me onto this idea. He was like, I would love to be able to use Sprig, the core functionality of Sprig in my plugins, so I can, use it in the panel and use reactive twig components. But I don't want to force that the site that my plugin is installed on to have to install the Sprig plugin. And that made perfect sense to me. But at the time, he didn't really have he wasn't working with Sprig in the control panel. It was just a theoretical exercise.
And this was also when he
experiment.
complained that he wanted to use TwigPack in his plugins in the CP. I said, you already can. It already is broken out into its own package. So we'll see if he ends up using either one of them.
Right. Yeah. It was just, just in case he ever wants to. Right?
Yeah, makes sense.
To me, that I thought that sounds great. I guess I thought, well, Sprig feels pretty feature complete, and I didn't want to start breaking it up and having to go through a major rewrite or anything like that.
Yeah.
But what happened is that recently I've been building plugins in the control panel, and I've been using HTMX more and more, which is what Sprig uses under the hood. It's a JavaScript library that allows you to fetch template partials or HTML partials and inject those into the page. And the reason I've been doing that is because, well, the reason I just mentioned, that I don't want to force this website that I'm building this custom plugin or module for to have Sprig installed as a plugin. So I was just using HTMX directly, which actually worked really well. It's a nice way of adding interactive pages to the control panel, so it doesn't feel so static. It's kind of like when you're used to using Sprig or any kind of reactive component framework on the front end, you get used to that and then you want to use it in the control panel as well. So I started playing around with the idea. So I built a few of these using HTMX, and it worked great. But there's one project that I'm in right now where I use it quite heavily. And I found myself writing the same code over and over again. And it's kind of just like boilerplate code, because with HTMX, you have to specifically say, what the path is to the template that you want to pull in, and you have to do a lot of the stuff that Sprig normally does for you. And I just realized, okay, this is the stage at which I'm ready to just have Sprig available in the control panel. So let me see how deep of a rabbit hole this really would be. So I split it out, which basically means that the core functionality of Sprig goes into this other package, which is simply a PHP package. It's not a craft plugin. And the craft plugin, which is Sprig, depends on that new package, which I'm calling Sprig Core. And then it adds a few things like the playground and the control panel, the logo and the settings page and that kind of thing. But it's essentially a wrapper for this core piece of functionality.
So we're kind of just
and there were a
moving
few
the
challenges.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're moving the deck furniture. Where were you going to go with that analogy?
So we're kind of just moving the deck furniture around to people that use Sprig. Like if I'm a person that I use Sprig because I use it on the front end and I use it to make things that easy for me in Twig, nothing's going to change for me, right? So this is kind of an internal moving around of the furniture type of thing for people that are using Sprig already in.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're using the Sprig plugin, for you, you're not going to notice any difference. There are some differences under the hood, which is what I'm explaining. But from the experience, you're not going to notice anything. Okay, that was actually my concern.
Yeah.
That I wanted to avoid any breaking changes or any having to do anything different. And yeah, we made that work.
Yeah, I think that's important to note to people, that if you are someone that uses Sprig, ain't nothing going to change for you, except that your options are now open wider, in that if you are a plugin or module developer, you could potentially take this little Sprig core, this little nut, Sprig nut, peanut, pistachio nut, that, I don't know, something like that, and pull that into your plugin. And then you would be able to use that in your plugin and transparently to everyone else, right? Because then if you also Sprig plugin, that's fine. They both just share the same package, right?
Right. This is the beauty of Composer and dependency, in that you can require a package as a dependency in your plugin, and it doesn't matter if that's required from a different plugin as well. Composer will figure that out, and there shouldn't be any conflicts there.
All right. So we get you on here to ask the hard questions, though, Ben. Or did you have something else you wanted to speak on before we get into the tough questions?
Well, just to wrap it up, what it makes possible is that as a plugin or module developer, use Sprig inside of the control panel. So you can get all of that reactivity using Twig for free, and you don't have to worry about the Sprig plugin being installed on the site. So if you like, and this probably makes even more sense, or is more relevant for people who are building a plugin that they want to distribute, because you don't know what the site's going to end up, what plugins the site will end up having.
Right.
So now all you need to do is require Sprig core. You get all of that functionality available to you straight away.
Very cool. All right. So the tough question, Ben. I want you to be looking right into my eyes. Can you confirm? Oh, he's not looking. Avoiding. He's very deceptive.
I'll let you ask it.
Very deceptive. Confirm or deny for Sprig core is that it's Craft CMS core. Confirm or deny, Ben?
I can do neither. But I can confirm that I'm not aware of any such plans.
Now having core, there's nothing stopping Pixel requiring that in Craft core and using it for instead of Garnet, and just using it to
this is
sprinkle
true,
on. Yeah.
I mean, we know that, like, and we have some transparency into Craft 4, right? Because we can see what's being, like, the features that have been added to the Craft CMS repo. We have a little bit of transparency. I mean, it seems, but yes, you're right. It could be done, and it would be much easier now that it's a core package rather than a plugin.
All right, so you're saying you didn't get a big wire transfer from Bend, Oregon? Is that what you're telling me? You didn't get a big old money transfer that came over? Is that?
If I did, then it got stuck in the mail or something. I don't know.
I'm just trying to do what they say and follow the money, Ben. I think I sniffed something.
Follow the money trail.
Yeah.
No, I mean, with yarn connecting everything. He's figuring out the.
That's right. You should see the wall in one of those crime scenes. I got all the wires connecting everything, and yeah, I think I know. I think I figured it out.
I mean, what I wanted to say is that we know the general direction the Craft is going to take in version 4, but what's not entirely clear is how invested is Pixeltonic in Vue.js. We know that they want to drop, or we've heard that they want to drop Varnish in favor of Vue.js, but we've also heard that there's some challenges in that. Like, if everything is acting as if it's an SPA, then it makes it very difficult for plugin developers to build control panel pages, because suddenly you have to change your entire mindset from static Twig templates to Vue.js components. So they're probably going to go somewhere in the middle, and how they end up providing that functionality to plugin developers is kind of still on the table. So
yeah, I think they wouldn't need to go full SPA. You could still use Twig if you wanted to. You could still be using Vue.js as the rendering system and not go full SPA. But you're right. If you do that, you do the benefits of the architecture. Right. Vue to render islands of functionality, which it's still useful, but it's not quite the same, because you don't getting down all that kind of fun stuff. If I had to bet, my bet would be that it's a time and space where rewriting everything that they've done probably is just entirely unrealistic in anything, So I think you're right. I think they may be taking sort of getting somewhere, and I don't know, and I don't mean half measures in a derogatory sense. I just mean in terms of realistically, they got other stuff to accomplish, and they can't say, all right, we'll see you in 5 years after we rewrite everything, in something
And
else. So I think you're right.
also realistically, you could have bought with Sprig Core, you could have bought them a little bit of time for the plugin developer experience, where now plugin developers have Sprig to use in having to figure out either garnish or their own hand roll thing. So,
and I actually make the opposite argument that you do, Ben, in that if it was entirely a Vue SPA, up to way more developers than are using it now for two reasons. One, there's just a ton more people use Vue, right? I mean, that's just a fact. Now, maybe the intersection of and craft is a little bit different. So you can't just say there's a lot of people over there. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to come over here. It's still there. And I don't know. I just think it could potentially open it up to more people working on it, as opposed to are familiar with the existing system. And they may or may not know Vue. They're going to have to learn it, but it's also better than something that just is not documented at. Garnish is zero. There's nothing. So I think for those two reasons, it could potentially work out the other way. They could take these sort of half measures, something where in addition to that, they're going to document the hell out of whatever it is they do. And then that kind of nullifies that one benefit to an extent.
I think the main thing they're trying to avoid is a difficult upgrade path for plugin developers, because we have, the plugin store with, I don't know how many hundreds of plugins. And, if they introduced they ripped out garnish and you have to do it kind of SPA style with Vue.js, then there are going to be a lot of plugins that are not upgraded for Craft 4, and that's not good for anybody. So I think Craft 4 is a kind of a stepping stone maybe to a full-on Vue.js experience if they're ever going there. Yeah. And that's a good thing, because we like stepping stones when it comes to major versions and breaking changes.
Yeah. I mean, my only real concern would be I kind of with something so boutique that the only place I'm ever going to use it is in Craft. I just really hope they don't go that route. But if it's documented, it's still going to be a step up from what it is now, which is both documented. So, I guess it's progress either way,
Well, what they might do is just use Vue.js for their own stuff, and kind of to plugin developers say, hey, you're free to use Twig, you're free whatever to use Vue.js because it's already being pulled in, or do whatever you want. Use Sprig, HTMX directly, or Jquery if you like.
Yeah.
Andrew, while we have
you,
I was going to change the topic while we had Ben here. I wanted to talk about.
I mean, there is a danger of it being a hodgepodge, though, where if they don't pick one clear direction, it may be a not wonderful DX experience in every direction. You know what I mean? If they're like, well, you can use Twig if you want, or you can use Vue, or you can use Sprig, or you can use this or that, the other thing. And if there isn't a clear direction and clear, well-documented path with examples, it could dilute it to the point where it actually wouldn't be. The flexibility can be a negative to some extent,
Yeah, hopefully they provide some good guidelines that nudge plugin developers in one singular direction, which will be probably the approach of, do it how we're doing it, which is Vue.js or however they end up doing it.
Cool, but have to get your wire.
But because we don't want to introduce too many breaking changes, this is going to be, kind of a stepping stone. And maybe then Craft 5 or a subsequent major version will be stricter about how it imposes how you build the control panel pages.
Go ahead, Ben. What were we going to say? You're going to change the topic?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to quickly with .all while we had Ben here as well.
So Ben, my understanding is that you're going to be giving your interactive workshop online. Is that correct?
No, that is the opposite of correct, and I think you know it.
Are you? No, get everything. I'm easily confused, Benny. You can't tell because it's clean, but I'm actually blonde, and I just I'm a little ditzy, you know.
No, I mean the new schedule is up on the .all.com site, right? So there's 2 days. It's a 2-day online conference with, I believe, 30-minute talks. That's what I've seen so far, and the workshops are not taking place, and I'm glad about that. For me, a workshop is an interactive experience where I get to ask questions, and the audience gets to ask questions, and or the participants, and I get to walk around the room, and there are several people walking around the room as people are working on things, and obviously that can't that format doesn't translate well to online, and it was planned to be a 4-hour workshop, and I don't particularly like the idea of speaking into a blank screen for 4 hours and not having that interaction. I think so I'm hoping that next year, or whenever the next in-person conference is, we can do the workshop. I don't think it's a topic like optimizing craft is not a topic that's going to age, or put it this way, it's going to age well. So I don't think it will be any less relevant next year or anytime really. But it is unfortunate because there were those two workshops I think were really interesting to people. One on advanced commerce and one on optimizing craft. But it'll have to wait.
That's a bummer.
Yep, so that's going on at the end of October, I think. So I'm not sure when this comes out, Andrew. Third week of October.
It'll come out just as soon as
We will open up the conference to, and we're planning to make the trip. So there's some upside there. It definitely doesn't replace it, especially
So
for a workshop.
That depends on what you ask. They have made all of the .all videos available online. So I would think that whether it's live or not, I would think the same number of people probably are going to see the videos in the end. Probably.
True. I don't know what platform they're using to stream it. So I don't know if there's going to be some sort of live chat or a way to engage in real time. But there's, yeah. I think
I'm getting in trouble with Caroline. Caroline is giving me grief because I said something about about being ditzy and blonde. She's like, whoa, hold on, about the hair color. I'm like, oh man, I'm in trouble. It's tough to make a joke that you don't. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. But so Ben, in terms of the .all online, are you going to be there? Are you going to attend the conference?
Yeah,
or?
for sure. Yeah, okay. I'm going to attend. Yeah, I'm going to get to put my feet up, pour myself a cold drink, and just attend as an attendee.
That'd be a good feeling.
5 a.m. Pacific time, U.S. Pacific time, which, like some people aren't happy with it, but I totally understand because it was a European conference. It totally makes sense that it should be in a time zone that is reasonable for people in.
Pixel and Tonic, or the team that did in Bend or on the West Coast, which is a significant number of them, they're the ones that are putting themselves in the situation of having to get up early.
Right. Right.
Yeah. When you're international, someone has to roll.
You can't please everybody all the time.
And what
time zones
some of the people some of the time.
Oh, geez.
It's October 20th to the 21st, right? Yeah. So we're still about, what is it? Still about 3 weeks away. Yeah. I don't know, Ben. I think you sure you could, there's probably something you could do to do this workshop interactive. You could have some kind of, that's what you could do, is open up a free-for-all audio chat with everybody that's attending and watching. So they could all just shout over each other at you at the same time.
I can't imagine anything better. Yeah.
I can't. You could do a series of videos on like a train performance.
Well, while you are here, Ben, we could talk about is, we haven't talked about it on the podcast here, is that I went away on a vacation a little while ago. I promised Ben Or sorry. And I promised Ryan that I was going to read a book while I was away. He happy with my book choice. He was very controlling. He making sure that I could only read a certain type of book. So I took that book with me, and I did not read it. I read 29 pages. Tyler was very happy to rat me out, apparently. So I got
a text from your son mid-vacation.
Yeah.
Saying, what did he say? He read 28 pages.
He's off by one. So that's how much I read. And I'm here to take the grief for it. Go ahead, give it to me.
What made you not read the book? Rain the whole time you were there?
Yes. It wasn't great from a beach vacation. We basically planned it during the tail end of Hurricane Ida. So it just, we went to the beach, the tent, and the kids were freezing their butts off, and everything there was a whole lot of wind. Everything was flying everywhere. And they had all these signs, white sharks are out there, and all just, they were all over. Yeah. Well, Cape Cod, I mean, that's where Jaws was filmed, that's where, and based on a lot of true stories, a decent number of people, get taken out. Not as many as by coconuts, but sometimes it happens. So what we did during the day is we did lots of family stuff. We visited places, miniature golf. We went up to Provincetown. We did a whole bunch of stuff like that. And when it got to be the end of the night, like I was tired that I just didn't want to read anything, man. And we were sleeping in, it was Airbnb. So it was just people renting out their own house. And this was a very interesting house. So it was very close to the beach, which was cool. We could just walk to but it was clearly like a very aged vintage. So for instance, there was no air conditioning anywhere, but there were about 5 fans in every room. So you could go around fans everywhere. And there was no real electricity. Well, there was electricity, but no real lighting, like no switches on the wall that would turn on a central, like 5 lamps in every room. So anytime you exited a room, you had to turn on like 5 lamps and turn on like 5 fans. I don't know. It was kind of weird. But also their beds, which weren't, they weren't the most modern and comfortable. So I wasn't sleeping that great either. Exhausted by the time it was the end of the night. I read a little bit.
You suffered from the classic vacation overestimation. You just basically overestimated the amount of free time you're gonna.
Pretty much. I mean, I did say that if I didn't read it, it would be because I'm doing stuff with my kids, and it kind of was that, because we were doing stuff all day. It wasn't a vacation like Ben has recently been on, where it's just me and somebody else, and we can just chill and do whatever we want. No, we had 2 little monsters that we had to keep feeding and keep entertaining, right? And that's just the way it is.
You brought you're saying?
If we brought the dogs, I would have been able to read the damn book.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about your book fail.
Yeah. I have always wanted to finish reading this book, so I'm going to read it. It's just a matter of...
I was going to ask, was it like a fail of the book? Like, did the book not grip you enough?
Not really.
Sometimes a book will do that. It'll really grab you, and then every moment that you can't sleep at night, you read your book. But it sounds
Heart of
like...
Darkness is what I was reading, which is, it's a classic. It was a difficult read to set, in that there are words in there that just are not used today in colloquial discussions. So I actually had to look up these words, and like my wife would be laughing. She'd be like, "Oh, you looking up another word? You sure you know how to read?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know how to read." And then I'd be like, "Okay, tell me what declivity means." And she'd be like, "Okay, I don't know what that is." I'm like, "Yeah, exactly. Yeah."
So you should have brought your pocket dictionary as well along.
Well, I just would look them up on my phone, but it was
for a modern book.
Well, I enjoy the book though. I mean, it's a good book, but there's definitely a different style of writing,
Right.
now as opposed to whenever it was. So it's fun getting into it, but go ahead.
Typically written at the 5th grade reading comprehension. So they are truly like easier to read than books that are written at a higher level.
I'm going to take that very personally, Ryan. Very personally, and I will stash that away, and you will get yours. Trust me, it's coming.
So really quick.
No, hold on. No. I'm not going to let that go. No. I will have you know that I quit on the words that I didn't know, and he didn't know a single damn one of them. So I don't want to hear it about.
I'm saying that the book that you read was probably a reading level than most modern books, current books, like 21st century.
Don't you pull no 5th grade reading level on me, Ryan. I know what you were doing there. That sly little smile that was on your face when you said it.
All right, so
I saw it.
From the past. Have either of you the series?
Yeah.
By Isaac Asimov?
A long time ago, yeah.
So you have, if you didn't know, Apple TV Plus series.
Ooh.
On that started a few weeks ago. I think the 3rd episode.
Any good?
Strongly recommend.
Oh, cool.
It's really good.
Cool. We're doing it. The White Lotus.
Yeah, let's do it.
On a show called The White Lotus, and it was actually recommended to me by Patrick Harrington, and I watched this, and it is pretty good. It is pretty
satire.
It's a good show, an adult show. so how about you, Ben? You got any? Ben's gonna be like, I recommend you go to a high altitude and cross your leg.
I don't know if I have any adult shows to recommend.
You're watching a 5th grade reading level show? Is that what you're saying?
I was also recently on holiday, but I don't have 2 young monsters to take care of. So I did get some reading time in. I'm reading a book called Untamed by Glennon Doyle, which I'm as bad as you, Andrew. Like in the last couple of years, I'm just reading tech stuff or not even reading much in terms of books, but this is like the opposite of tech. So this is about, how to find your own inner wildness. So highly recommended.
Most of my life doing the opposite, Ben, trying to like tamp it down. kind of like vent from escaping, you know what I'm saying?
And my when you went on vacation was the book that I'm reading right now, which is The Great.
I read that in.
It's also a classic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's American novel. Definitely, I wouldn't say it's beyond the 5th grade level, but it's the style of it is not something that you would.
Well, Ryan, I'm going to make sure that whenever we do any code demos, I'm going to make sure that it's at the 5th grade level so that you can understand it. Okay, Ryan, how about that? But here's an interesting thought, though. So before Gutenberg and before there was a press, a lot of the learning and history was oral, right? People would tell stories and songs, and that was how things happened. And then we went into an era of people could easily and cheaply print books, and people consume lots of that. And very recently, video era where people are able to either watch a video or listen to it. I mean, I wonder if long-term, I'm not saying books are going to go away, but I wonder if it's long-term going to kind of people consume stories and knowledge. I mean, we got an interesting conflict for Ryan because he's got a video like that. So he's got to say that that's a good likes books. So what do you think? Do you think people are eventually going to transition where there'll be less and less storytelling, oral storytelling in terms of passing down information or learning? There still is some of that in the form of song. And I think maybe less reading actual book and more watching videos, especially with the rise of YouTube. What do you guys think?
I mean, that's for sure already happened. Like that train is long left where people are not reading books. But I hope books won't go away because they're very it's a very different experience, right? To watching a video. Like and I'm not saying it's better or worse, but it's just a very different one, especially when you're like holding a physical book that's, print on paper. I find it, maybe I'm just being nostalgic, but I find it to be quite a unique experience.
No,
Laying on a beach and
yeah.
switching off completely and just being absorbed by the printed words on the book. But what I'm noticing is that, back to your point of, how knowledge is passed on, is that we seem to be less interested or less concerned with the details and the bigger picture. Give me bite-sized chunks of information, this kind of copy paste mentality of just give me this answer, or Google, just give me this, tell me what the population of this place is, without really getting a feel for what is this country or city about, or what, if you opened up an encyclopedia and you looked to, I don't know, Colombia, then you're going to read about the country and mostly facts, of course, but also hopefully a bit of background too. Whereas these days, when we want an answer to a question, we just want the kind of pure hard fact, without really getting a feel for the broader topic. And I think that's kind of what we're losing or transitioning to away from.
But is it possible that, so for instance, let's say we wanted to know something, 50 years ago or whatever, and I know none of us were alive then, but just assume we were, and we wanted to know a particular fact. Well, okay, if we were well off and we had encyclopedias, like I guess we could go somewhere and try to look it up, but I feel like a lot of the time we just wouldn't bother. Like, what is the I don't know, you know what I mean? Whereas now, to discover that fact, that you're going to figure out the answer to it, right? Like if you, I pre-internet being widely available everywhere, something, you'd be like, yeah, I'm not really sure, and then it would just kind of end there, and then you would go on with your day. Now, if you don't know the answer, you can't do anything else until you Google it and find that answer. So at least you're doing that,
Right. The information is more available to us, but the question is, are more people going to, let's say, the Wikipedia page and reading about, like, Wikipedia is amazing, right? And they often have background and history and all of that. Are people going and reading that, or are people just getting, the number that they're looking for, and that's it, done? And I think it's just the speed at which we're trying to consume information. It's not so much about absorbing and learning information, so it's about consuming it.
Yeah.
And Ryan's videos, like, I find them great because you get a story. You don't just get the hard facts, but you get like the entire story of why you might want to do this, and what the process is, and what the alternative approaches are, and so on and so forth. I remember somebody, I think it was for devMode, maybe you remember this, Andrew, but somebody tweeted saying, hey, can I get a transcript? Because I don't really like listening to them. I just want to kind of read the bits and pieces. Or I've also heard people saying, with video courses, can I play this at 2x or 3x speed? Because I don't have 10 minutes. I want to get the information as quickly as possible. And I think that's kind of a shame, because for a podcast, I mean, I would like to think that listening to our voices, or in this case, also being able to see our faces, gives you a bit more of the experience than just, reading it off of a transcript.
Yeah.
So I think that there's going to be media and ways of accessing and consuming information. Mastery is always going to be. So if you don't take the time to master something, then you actually could if you did. So if you're always taking shortcuts, then you're not going to be able to go.
And that is a whole nother podcast where we can talk about boot camps and React developers that hit the ground running and have gaps in their knowledge, shall we say. But yeah, I mean, Ben, I hear what you're saying, and people playing stuff at 2x speed and videos at 2x speed it's kind of tough for Ryan, because his voice is already a little effeminate, and then he played it higher pitched, and it's not good for him. But that about wraps it up for another episode of the devMode.fm. Every episode sent to you. Subscribe to our RSS feed or subscribe on iTunes or Twitter. And Ryan, thank you very much for coming on.
I'm from craftquest.io, and I read above the 5th grade level.
And Ben, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, chaps.
I'm sorry, Ryan. I can't read this.
I have to roll. I have an